Meshtastic has grown in 2025, probably more than it had grown last year in 2024. So far to the point that it's like becoming a household name. It's really starting to take off. But there's two things that happened with Meshtastic that I think didn't happen with, like, say, the Baofeng in 2015. If you go back to when the Baofeng first came out, there was really nothing like it, and Baofeng kind of held this, $15 to $30 radio space for what felt like a couple of years. And so the word Baofeng became ubiquitous with cheap Chinese radio, and we still use the term today, even though we're talking about a Radtel, for instance, right? Or a Quancheng. It's a Baofeng type radio. Well, Meshtastic never really had that happen because there really was no standout singular unit of Meshtastic that just applied perfectly to that one niche, and then everybody just bought that one thing and got really, really good at it, like it happened with the Baofengs. So instead, we saw all these very fast pop-up companies create turnkey, and sometimes less than turnkey, Meshtastic devices, which means you had lots of people going out there and having very different experiences with using Meshtastic. And then ultimately, many of them, after figuring out what Meshtastic does, still said, this isn't for me. So the barrier to entry being low, people bought in, but they didn't, I don't know. It feels like a lot of people are kind of like, yeah, I tried it. It's on the shelf now next to my Baofeng, and I'm going to move on to my next preparedness item, because there's a big prepper bend, I think, in a lot of the folks who have kind of got involved with Meshtastic. Regardless of all of that, this year is one of the best years for Meshtastic devices, and I'm going to talk to you today about my favorite devices. Here is my big collection of Meshtastics that I like in 2025. I'm going to go from the cheapest to the most expensive, and I'm going to cover some of the most often used and important functions that you should care about. The first is the Seeed Studios T1000. What can I say about this thing? We have them at Hamfest. They show up there. The Seeed Studio guys are there. They are great entry-level Meshtastic. They're incredibly thin. You can buy a couple of these to place them in different locations if you're hiking around. I have an extra one always, in fact, this is my extra one that I always keep in my chest rig, just in case I need another Meshtastic. Why would you need one? I don't know. Put it in a tree way up high if you're walking down in a valley so you can get your signal out. Sure, why not? Downside of this is twofold. There's two things that's not great about this, but the size is more or less why it is what it is. This is a 750 milliamp hour battery, which is small. It'll get you through the day, but it may not get you through a weekend. Also, the connection port for charging and data is this dual magnet 4-pin prong thing, and you need to use the specialty cable for this. It does not have USB-C like all the rest of these do, so you will need to keep that with this unit. In fact, I usually rubber band the cable directly onto this so that I always have it together. It's nice it has a lanyard hole. I include my little tether here with a glow indicator, but yeah, just a solid entry-level Meshtastic, cool device. Next cheapest is also Seeed Studios. This is the L1 Pro at $38.61. This is a fantastically appointed Meshtastic for a beginner at an incredible price. So this has GPS, a screen, and a 2000 milliamp hour battery. And in fact, you can control it just by scrolling around with this little thumb stud. And yeah, it'll take you all the way through and you can see what's going on. So let's go to this one, and what do we see? We can add favorites, trace route, get all kinds of information about the people you're seeing out there, as well as you can send messages. So you can go through the list here. Hold on. Message scrolling is a little bit more difficult on this one, as you kind of have to dismiss messages to then see which ones are next and go through it that way. You can push up or down on the jog dial to bring up some pre-canned messages, and you can set these within the Meshtastic app, which makes it pretty handy. This is just a great little unit. It's not water resistant or anything like that. It has an external antenna, so you can swap that out. Very, very nice for $38, $40. Downside, out of stock. It's hard to get this one. This one disappears pretty quickly, so you have to keep that in mind. So next, it's actually two, but they come in two different prices because they're offering a bit different stuff. So this is the Heltec
Mesh Pocket. This is very similar to the T1000. They have very similar capabilities. In fact, they're running the exact same chipset. These three radios are all running NRF 5284 chipsets, which is totally fine. They're efficient. They'll last for a long time. But this does something that none of these other ones do. This has a magnetic recharging capability for like a cell phone. And it works. So if I click this button once, the little green light turns on there in the bottom. And if I take my phone, I can charge my phone. This is actually a 7,000 milliamp hour battery that's in this, which is just dwarfs all the others in terms of capacity for battery. And then you can turn it off by double clicking that. Yeah, there you go. Now it's off. E-ink screen is nice. It has user controls on the side, reset button like you'd expect. The bigger brother, so same thing, right? This one retails for about $59. This one, $69. Same exact function, except this gets you 10,000 milliamp hours, which is pretty cool. It's like carrying a battery bank that also does Meshtastic stuff, which, you know, combo device makes it easy to get multi-layered functionality out of it, so you can charge it as well. And it's a decently strong battery. It holds on okay, but it starts to slide a little bit. If you go back and look at my review of this, that's linked in the video description, I was actually able to use the PD output of this battery to run a QRP amateur radio, and that worked fine too. All right, well, I did get picked up. Oh my God, clear across the country. I got picked up in South Carolina. That's pretty good. It's simple, easy, effective. It doesn't offer any other sensor datas like GPS, but they work fine, and it's a big honking battery. So you could charge this thing up and let it run for days, if not over a week, at 10,000 milliamp hours. That's above and beyond any of these others. Most of these top out at 2,000 milliamp hours. And for about 69 bucks, it's a good deal. At $78, the next is the LilyGo T-Deck Plus. This is the only radio in this lineup here that actually has the Meshtastic UI software running. It's almost like it was designed specifically for this device, and it's very BlackBerry-esque with its looks and stylings here. But it's a touchscreen, meaning you can go through the list of all the nodes that you see in and around you, and you can reply on whichever talk group. So this one is just the standard default long fast talk group, and then they all just go off, right? This is a really, really cool device. This is a device that you might hand to somebody that's a bit younger, may not have a cell phone. In fact, that's exactly what I do. This is my first generation T-Deck that I built. I printed the case, and it has a big honking battery in it, and I added the SMA connector. By the way, people ask me sometimes, what antenna are these? These are the Smiley antennas for 915 megahertz. They work really well. In fact, I'm in the process of upgrading the radios that'll take it to these Smiley antennas, which are much, much better. Anyway, not the point. Downside of this guy is, even though you get this really cool UI and it has GPS, a number of other features that are all really, really nice, including this case, which is good, 2,000 milliamp hour battery. That's really not enough for this with everything you got going on. I think this radio has 8,000 milliamp hours in it, which is way, 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 way better. And this will run for like a week versus this. You may get a weekend out of it. More likely you're going to have to charge it pretty often. So keep that in mind. It is nice to be able to use, though, to just have the text, the keyboard, and the ability to scroll through and change your settings. Note that if you want the map to work, you will need to use the SD card slot on the side to import the maps. It's easy to do, but that's the only way you're going to get that capability. It will display your physical location based off of GPS. It will give you information on the nodes if you go in there, and you'll get simple details depending on what they're broadcasting. So good device, really fun. It's definitely like look and feel of kind of a techie nerd guy or international hacker spy, but yeah, not bad for the price. It's a fun little experimental board. And in fact, there are other firmwares you can put on this that aren't Meshtastic that will do other things that are kind of fun as well. So yeah, not bad. Good stocking stuffer. Maybe, I'm not going to pick a favorite out of these, but I got to tell you, this is the one that I've carried the most. This is a different type of unit. You might not have seen these before. And in fact, I didn't know about this company until I went to DEF CON. This is the LowMesh Pocket S, and that is a solar panel that's on top of it. So that lets you run this thing, clip it to your backpack, is exactly what I do when I go out hiking, and be able to charge this and keep it going. It also has a 2000 milliamp hour battery. It features pretty much the same chipset, which is the NRF52840. It's got a little tripod threaded connector in the back. This is a really nice node. Primary reason because it's got the solar panel, and that lets you run it for much longer than the rest of these will go and keep it charged fairly decently. Depending on how you have this oriented and how much sun it's getting, it may not be able to run it 24/7, meaning get all day solar charge capability and then run all night. It will eventually deplete the battery depending on how you have this configured, but it will go way longer than all of these if you're just outdoors. I will note that this 3D printed case has totally stood up to the Southern California sun sitting on the dashboard of my truck. This lives in the dashboard of my truck in a little pocket that you can put coins and stuff in. But yeah, it sits right on top. It charges decently. I sometimes have to go in and power cycle it every once in a while because it's depleted its battery and then sat charging back up again. It's worked great. It does not have GPS, so if you care about that, it's just going to use your phone's GPS when tethered for that information. It's just going to send messages and do other things for you in that sense. It does have a temperature and humidity sensor, so you can use this when hiking to get accurate information in regards to what the temperature's been like. And it'll actually show you a histogram on what it's seen in the past X amount of hours or whatever you have set up. If you're ever curious how to access that sensor data, click on Nodes here at the bottom, and then click on your node at the top, and then scroll down, and you should see, there we go, you should see environment metrics, and you will be getting a readout on the sensors. Keep in mind, if your unit doesn't have temperature and humidity sensors, it'll say something in the bottom like provided by Apple or whichever phone you have, and that means it's pulling from the internet. So it's probably accurate, but it's only as good as you having connections to the internet. But if you've got actual sensors, then it will display them here under the metrics log, and will give you a readout of how many times it took a sensor reading, and it'll give you stacked line graph to show you what the temperature and humidity has been like. Very cool. When you're hiking, it's pretty helpful. All right, the last two are both from Muzi Works. The Muzi Works R1 Neo is kind of their newest node, and it's a upgrade to the original R1, which had a plastic base. It's now like a metal, and this is a carbon PETG, at least as mentioned on the website. And they added a soft button here for status. You will get notified with the buzzer when it goes off, when it gets a message, and you can click that and silence it. You'll also get a little light flashing when you have a new message come in or something along those lines. It has USB-C that is water resistant. So the whole case is water resistant on this one. Not IP rated necessarily for dunks or submersion, but it should be the most rugged-ish of the nodes that we have out here. This is pretty cool. It has GPS, which is just crazy when you think about like other nodes. Not many other nodes this size can have GPS and a chip in it to do Meshtastic or LoRa. So that makes it kind of unique. This is also running the NRF52840. In fact, most of the nodes I have out here this year do run that chipset, as it's pretty efficient and works pretty well. It comes with a belt clip or a backpack strap clip that works really good. Holds it in really tight. I have not been able to shake this out, and I have worn this on hikes. My last one, and maybe my favorite for reasons that I will try to explain, this is the H2T. Particularly, this is their first anniversary special edition. This is the only one that is running a Heltec T114 V2 board, and you can see from the screen here, it's a bit unique. This one has a really, really nice to read screen. Similar controls or similar menu to what you see on the L1 Pro, but you can see the quality difference on the display. The HT2 just looks really, really nice. I don't know how else to explain it other than it really looks cool. Controlling it isn't as easy at all. You kind of have to just click through it and to see the list. You really would need to use a phone with the HT2 versus you can do most of what you need to do to get around, send messages, and see who's out there with the L1 Pro. So although similar in that this has a 2000 milliamp hour battery, this chipset is probably the most efficient out of all the ones here. And I have ran this throughout an entire weekend, meaning like on Friday, left to go to DEF CON, came back, and this was still running on Monday afternoon when we got home without any problem. This is a really, really nice one if you want a small unit that will just continue to run for days and days and days. Very, very cool. Now, out of all these, the only two that have special chipsets are these guys. These are both rocking. The Muzi has the Heltec T114, which I think you're going to see more of these going forward. I think these are going to be the spiritual successor to the Heltec V3s, which a lot of people are starting to move away from those because they're kind of battery hogs. The T-Deck Plus is running the S3FN16R8, which is an ESP32 board. Again, this guy is kind of a battery hog. So it's fun, but you will likely have to charge it daily depending on your use. I think that if you go get yourself a T1 or version 1, the non-plus model, you can add GPS to it and you can add a massive battery. Note to the screen, can you tell the screen difference between them? So here's the difference between the first gen and the Plus model. In person, the Plus is better, although it looks a little washed out. I think that's just because of the backlit settings I have on this. Note that you can get the T-Deck Plus with no antenna connections like I did here. This was one of the first T-Deck Pluses that came out, and the keyboard is now different too on these Meshtastic devices, these LoRa devices. They also have a version where they have this knocked out and there's an SMA connector. If you really are into this and you want the longest distance communication possible, definitely opt with the one that has the antenna connection. All right.
So there is one more node that I haven't mentioned. That's my Larz Node. I'm not sure if he's actually calling it that. I'll double check. But my buddy Larz made a solar node that's still on my roof. It's been up there since I put it up, and it's great. I think actually solar nodes are really the point that people should enter in. Like if you think these are cool, but you don't really get a lot out of them because there's maybe not a lot of signals in your area, you almost need to go solar node. You got to put a node on the roof, something that'll keep itself going. That's going to help your experience out tremendously. It's going to grow the network. You become part of the network. You're able to actually message people. And then these guys are more for portable or for around the house when you want to use your node on the roof to boost your signal by just transmitting messages, right? So solar nodes are where it's at, and thankfully there's a ton on the market that are available now, and they're all seemingly really good. Seed Studio jumps to mind. They have a really good one as well. I will drop as many links as I can to the ones that I think are cool in the video description, but thanks a lot, Larz. I appreciate you. Very, very cool solar node. But as far as favorite nodes of the year, well, it's probably the solar node for reasons that I already mentioned, but the ones that I use the most throughout the year are these three. No question, I use the T-Deck a lot, and we spent a lot of time talking about it because the new UI came out this year. Insofar as you can actually just load it on these guys, it works really well. It's a lot of fun. You can't do everything you can do on the phone app, but you can do a lot and enough to be portable on the go with these. So big shout out to the T-Decks. I don't love the battery life. I think that while the T-Deck is kind of turnkey-ish, there's a little bit of futzing you have to do with the GPS pins, but it's a good device. If you're really serious about a T-Deck, then go ahead and 3D print your own case and put the big honkin' battery in here. It will do a world of difference and have that external antenna. And throw the smiley on there. I'm really liking these smiley antennas. They're super, super cool. They actually have two styles. One has a little chrome bit on the bottom that I really like. As far as the just very simple handhelds, yeah, it's the HT2 from Muzi Works and the new R1. They're both just grab it and go, throw it in a backpack. I carried these when I was hiking. This one's very new to me, but this one went through DEF CON. I loved it. Works great. And keynote, what do you notice on both these? External antennas, right? Decent external antennas are going to be pretty much a requirement for getting the most out of your Meshtastic experiences that you can. Same thing with a handheld ham radio, right? You're going to want a better antenna. So check out the Smiley antennas, but Muzi Works has their own antennas. Obviously, Seed has their own antennas, differing qualities. I haven't figured out how to quite do an antenna comparison against these yet, but it's something I'm thinking about. But yeah, Muzi Works knocked it out of the park. So yeah, there you go. That's my top of 2025 Meshtastic nodes. I know there are a lot of Meshtastic nodes. The reason why your favorite one might not have been on the list is because I didn't review it. I didn't get my hands on it. And generally, I only talk about things I actually use. I don't really want to shill for something I haven't spent some time with, feel that I understand it well enough to talk about it to you, and of course, would recommend it or not recommend it. If I'm just like, I don't know, man, here's what it does, let me show you. I don't know, you check it out, you tell me. Then I feel like, what's the point of making the video? I kind of want to tell you something, teach you something. That's about my opinion on all of that. Anyway, post your comments below in the doobly-doo. Thank you so much for watching. Links for everything will be in the video description. And until I talk to you again, 73.